Whether at Disney World, the movie theaters, or just a Halloween party, we've all grown up idolizing pirates. Entertainment companies all over the world rake in millions of dollars each year from benefiting off of pirate-based theme attractions. Think about it. You'd be hard-pressed to find someone who didn't know what a pirate was or had never seen a pirate ship before. The crazy part about this is, despite all the money entertainment companies rake in yearly, it's still nothing compared to the unfathomable amount that real pirates have pillaged, plundered, and stolen over the hundreds of years they've been sailing the seas. Today I'm going to take you on a brief journey through the history of piracy by first explaining some of the earliest accounts of piracy, then moving on to what is now known as the Golden Age of piracy, when pirating was at its most popular, and finally finishing by explaining some of the most recent modern-day examples of pirates. Now, there are many common misconceptions about piracy that get thrown out there that can be extremely misleading, especially if you're only receiving your information on them from pop culture sources. Today, I'm going to debunk many of those misconceptions and show you the reality of piracy. Now, each year, I travel to my beach house in the Outer Banks of North Carolina, where pirating was once extremely prevalent hundreds of years ago. There are countless landmarks, relics, and museums all over the island, all of which I've studied with a particular interest over the past 18 years of my life. Now, when I say the word pirate, you probably form a mental image in your mind of either a ship that looks a little like this, or a man with a sword on his hip, a pointed hat, and maybe even a parrot on his shoulder. The reality is, however, pirates were never this aesthetically pleasing. You see, piracy has gone through many phases, if you will. The first phase begins at 1200 BC. Wikipedia explains that the earliest accounts of piracy are from the Mediterranean Sea, where a group of men known as the Sea Peoples would man smaller ships, board other commercial ships, and steal their goods. This became more and more of a common profession as stealing cargo became more profitable to them and more efficient. In addition to stealing cargo, many of the earliest accounts of piracy detailed that they would engage in slave trade by enslaving their captured victims of their raids. It's difficult to give an accurate number because of how long ago it was, but the ancient history encyclopedia says a healthy male slave between the ages of 15 and 40 may have been worth up to as much as $3,000 in what is today's money. So you can see piracy was very profitable during this time. Now, piracy remained rather popular during the next couple hundred years, but there was not a significant jump in the amount of pirates until about the 17th century. Now, the next phase is what's known as the golden age of piracy because of both the huge rise in the amount of pirates and also the amount of profit that was available during this time. When you think of some of the pirate legends, if you will, names like Blackbeard, Henry Morgan, and William Fly, these were all pirates that sailed the same waters that I now swim in every summer. Now, there was much more money available during this time because the pirates got smarter. They started blocking off ports off the coast of America, making it impossible for the English to transport goods between England and what is today known as America. Study.com explains in other places such as the Caribbean, the Indian Ocean, and the Red Sea, much of the same was going on. Pirates would target ships that were loaded with goods such as tobacco, gold, and spices. So as you can see, this is a worldwide phenomenon happening right now. Now, one of the many common misconceptions that gets thrown out about this time is that ships grew in size. Ships grew in size and luxury. Now, it's true that ships got bigger during this time, and they started to look a little more like what you would associate a pirate ship with if someone said pirate ship. But the fallacy there is that they grew in luxury as well. In fact, they were often extremely packed and disgusting. When I was 10 years old, the Roanoke Maritime Museum gave a presentation to me and my family explaining that many times pirates would lay down sardine style, shoulder to shoulder on the on the floor of the pirate ship before leaving port to ensure that they had enough room to sleep at night. So you can see it was crowded and it was not luxurious, as shown in movies like The Pirates of the Caribbean, where Jack Sparrow seems to be floating around freely all by himself on a huge ship. But if they did return to port, despite all this lack of luxury, it was made all worth it. You see, they often returned with plentiful goods and money. Forbes.com even estimates that some of the most wealthy pirates during this time could have been worth up to what would today be $120 million. Unfortunately, as bounties started to get put on pirates' heads and new technology began emerging, the pirates' numbers started to go down. The end of the Golden Age was officially at 1750. However, there are still pirates that sail the seas to this day. Now, while the peak of piracy may be behind us, piracy is still very much relevant around the world. Perhaps the most well-known examples come from Somalia. In 2013, the wildly successful film Captain Phillips detailed the story of Somali pirates boarding and taking control of an American container ship and then proceeding to steal the goods and take Captain Richard Phillips hostage for multiple days, demanding both ransom money and a free escape from the United States Navy. In addition to Somalia, Wikipedia explains that piracy is also extremely prevalent today in the Caribbean, Malaysia, and the Indian Ocean. Now, a commonality between all of these places I just listed is that they're not first world richer countries. In fact, many of today's modern pirates are very poor. They rarely use ships that are more than 20 feet long. This is a commonality between some of the earliest accounts of pirates and some of the most recent accounts. However, what they lack in equipment, they make up with hyper-aggressiveness. Oftentimes, when they board the ships, they use guns and weapons to take control and to take the ship hostage and transport its goods. Now, this may seem like a simple form of piracy, but it produces an estimated $6 to $7 billion, that's billion with a B, each year. So it's clear that piracy continues to be an extremely risky and very dangerous line of work, but there are potentially huge payouts. In conclusion, today I spoke to you about a brief history of piracy by first explaining some of the earliest accounts of piracy, then moving on to what is now known as the Golden Age, when pirating was at its most popular, and finally finishing by explaining some of the most recent examples of pirates. Now you can see that all of these eras of pirating are very different, but there are very clear similarities. And I'll leave you by saying this: if you ever see Jack Sparrow or any other pirates in the middle of the ocean, turn it around and put it into high gear. Thank you.